Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Vagrant. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, I like what this episode does, kind of cutting back and forth between kind of giving you more insight into Isaac's past, kind of understanding how he got to where he is right now, and kind of how that ends up folding into the story. I didn't quite catch it at the beginning. Maybe they said it, maybe they didn't, but if you know, let me know in the comments down below. But did they actually explain what it is that Isaac, like, because he was up there for like a meeting or something, like obviously it's around Jupiter and stuff like that. It was like he was under some, like, it seemed like official business. So it's like, what kind of, like, is he someone important back on Earth? Like, is he some kind of, like, you know, government official or something like that? Like I said, they might have mentioned it, but I couldn't quite grasp what they were kind of insinuating his position. Maybe they directly said it and I missed it, or maybe it's just kind of insinuating that he's someone important. Maybe, or, you know, maybe it's just him just, hey, I'm just some dude with a job of, like, that involves me getting up here. I just thought it was kind of interesting because it was like I said, it was like a meeting that was supposed to be held, but it kind of kept getting pushed off. But then, like, they got sucked into the wormhole. Sadly, and it's really sad when you break it down. You know, it's like Isaac was there for, like, you know, after getting stuck there, the pilot was dead, and he was there on his own for 2 weeks. And that also kind of plays into something later on when it's like, when he's talking about, you know, Amazed, like, oh, you're a good pilot. He's like, I need to kind of have the ship on autopilot, stuff like that. And now we know in the grand schemes why, because he doesn't know how to fly a ship. I mean, even after all this time, I mean, you've never had the proper training for it. But regardless, like I said, I like the cut back and forth. I also like that, like, this desert planet and stuff like that has those things which kind of remind me of the graboids from the Tremor movies. I definitely got a Tremors vibe in this episode, and I love that even, like, he got flung out of an ejector seat. I think he was even saying, like, I knew it was kind of a dumb idea to have that on a spaceship. I think it was, I guess I'm assuming, like, Aleda's idea, because he was like, I told her it was a terrible idea to have an ejector seat on a spaceship, which makes sense in the grand scheme of things, because, like, more often than not, you're going to be in space on a spaceship, so having an ejector seat doesn't do you any good. So everybody, you know, is, you know, kind of getting together, you know, after being, well, everyone else is still on the ship. He's the only one that kind of was distant. And I love, as he's walking, he runs into the bunny. He's like, okay, so what are you going to do? Are you going to turn out to be one of those tentacle things? Like, you look cute and everything, but the moment you open your mouth, there's a whole bunch of teeth. Or are you going to, like, throw out something gross? He's like, what is it? Go ahead. What is it? And he's breaking down and he's pointing a gun at the bunny. I was like, yeah, it's most likely it looks cute, but it's going to be something disgusting. But then Dengar is like, no, that's actually all there is to the thing. Like, the fact is, and so I was like, oh, so you are just cute and adorable and not a monster secretly. It's like, okay, good. But Isaac kind of passes out from his wounds, but luckily he gets brought back to the ship and gets patched up and everything. And Aleda's it's interesting because, like, you know, like, Aleda obviously cares about him and just kind of like, you know, if you want to, basically at the end of the day, she was like, if you want to stay behind, you can. But he's like, no, I'm with you all the way. But then you notice, like, you know, I'm kind of, you know, we might as well talk about it. But it's like, even from the beginning, you can tell something was off. You know, it's just kind of, he wasn't himself. I was like, yeah, he was. I feel like he was just kind of like sulking a little bit. Part of me was wondering, is that just because he's thinking about the past or something more to it? I was like, we'll kind of, you know, and I was just like, we'll kind of have to keep waiting and see. And obviously, I even love that thing of, like, she offers the same thing to May of, like, oh, you'll have to go. She's like, really? I don't? Okay, thank goodness, because, you know, sorry, but kind of messing with Aleda a little bit. Like, no, of course, like, we're, you know, it's like, if one falls, we all fall, kind of throwing back at Aleda what she said last episode. So it's like, no, we're in this together. So basically, apparently, and I love that too, like, apparently there's a whole bunch of dangerous stuff on this planet they never came across. I'm sure that's going to probably come into play, like, in the next episode or something like that. But it's pretty much stay away from everything on this planet, because most things on this planet are dangerous. So. But the half situation was interesting, because at first, the way he's kind of like, no, we'll scope the place out, and then, like, we'll, you know, formulate a plan when we get there. And I'm like, the moment he starts saying that, I was like, well, we already knew that he had ulterior motives for this whole thing. Like, we know it's about this Stenzard. So I was like, okay. I was like, oh, so you're okay. So that's already kind of happening. But I'm like, okay, because even the moment he was like, yeah, your mom is in this place, it used to be like a temple or whatever, because that was even a conversation between Isaac and Aleda. I love that whole thing about like they make a reference, like basically he's like a temple of doom, and she looks at him and he's like, you know, we've watched this movie. She's like, oh, Indy. He's like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, but I don't get it. He can dodge snakes, but he can't dodge carbonite. He's like, I told you before, actors. He's like, never mind. You know what? I'm not even about to go down that lane. But basically, even the moment he started talking about that, I was like, that's interesting. I was like, did they really imprison her where the Stenzard is? Like, is it really like, oh, putting her in like a temple of doom? Because I knew that's where the Stenzard was. So I was like, is this, because I didn't like, I don't know what, like, because initially my thought was like, okay, the Stenzard and her mom are in the same place. Like, she's going to get her mom while obviously, you know, Hoth has his own plan, you know? So I figured that was going to be it. But then they get attacked by those tentacle plant things. And Isaac kind of goes on badass, kind of like leaping and slashing and cutting people free and everything. Luckily, they all got away from everything. So, but the real kick in the teeth is later on when it's like, when we see that Half brings Carl and Dengar over, and I'm like, you're formulating a plan about the Stenzard. So I'm like, what are you? And then like they kind of like, wait, what? And it's like, Alita's like, what's this all about? So she goes forward, and it's like, so, oh, my mom's supposed to be here? Like, this place is buried. Like, that's kind of weird. Where are the guards? He's like, there's no guards. I was like, oh boy. It's like, what's about to happen? And it's like, this is where the Stenzard is. Your mom isn't here. She never was. And she's like, my mom's not alive, is she? And it's like, no. I was like, Jesus. I mean, I could get past like, okay, you need to use her to get to the Stenzard, but you know, oh, we're rescuing her mom. No, her mom's dead. I was like, that is harsh, because that's the only, like, she went her entire life thinking her mom was dead, and this whole situation gave her a glimmer of hope. Because even she's like, Isaac, did you? He was like, no, like that's what happened. It's like, no, half is like, Isaac is innocent in all of this, because the fact of the matter is, I didn't know where you were. The fact of the matter is, I needed, you know, to find you. And like, the fact of the matter is, you already showed that you kind of, you know, wanted to throw away your crown, you know, your throne. So basically, it's kind of like, I needed something to kind of get you here. But it's still just kind of like, that is mad shitty that it's like, because she had lost hope about, oh, my mom's dead. Wait, my mom's alive? Wait, and that's what drove her. And the fact is, and even Aleda's like, at any point in time, you could have told me the truth. But for him, it's like, he knew that was the only way to get her here. So it's like, he didn't want to tell her the truth until it was absolutely necessary. And it turns out none of the loyalists, except for like the higher ranking people, no one knew about the Stenzard or, you know, or what this was all about. They thought they were rescuing Aleda's mom too. So... and that's hard. And I even love, you know, May being like, you're an asshole. And she's like, I'm not even going to apologize for that, you know? And obviously Isaac's the one that's like, I'm going to take over this, like trying to go after Aleda. Because Aleda was like, after you and me, we're done. I see you again, I will kill you without hesitation, Half. And, you know, it took him kind of, you know, convincing her to come back. You know, saying that, you know, it's like, you know, I can always feed Half to one of those, like the sand creatures. And it's like, if May hasn't already. But the fact of the matter is, he's like, you have to kind of look out for yourself in this world. And the fact is, this thing, you get it. The fact of the matter is, no one's ever going to mess with you again. But like I said, the way Isaac was acting in this episode, I was like, oh, like, don't tell me. I was like, please don't tell me that you betrayed him. Because I just got the inkling already. Like I said, he wasn't acting like himself this episode. He was a little off just the way he... and I think that's why he saved everyone. Because like his whole plan was never like, no one's supposed to get hurt. Like I'm skipping around a little bit. Like no one was meant to get hurt. So I think that's what him overcompensating. Like, no, we're all going to make it out of this. Like everyone's going to get what they want. It's going to be okay. You know? And so, and that's even, especially when he was talking to May later on, he's like, you guys are better off without me. And I was like, oh, you did something, didn't you? And it's like, I just had that inkling because of that. And she's like, no, like basically she's saying that we're like parts of an engine. Without one part, it doesn't work. So, you know, saying that, you know, like we are a team, like we are not better off without you. But, you know, so... Aleda reluctantly goes inside, because I'm curious, because obviously like what Isaac had told her, like, oh, you get this thing, like no one's ever gonna like basically hurt you, or again, like you never have to worry about people, you know, it's something as powerful as this, you never have to worry about people kind of using you or hurting you again. You basically be able to stop them from doing that. So I'm curious, like, when she got the stins, or what would have been her plan to do? Like, would she have gone with what Hath had wanted her to do? Like, because he was basically playing on the whole aspect of you can get revenge on the people that actually did this to your mom and everything. So even suggesting, like, that's the whole, like, that's why she was trained. Which, because even I was like, the fact of the matter is your family went through a lot of trouble to make sure it was hidden. Like, is it really? But then again, I was like, well, your mom, I mean, because that's what I was like, is it really what your mom would want? But then again, it's like, well, she was there with the training and everything. So I'm assuming Hath was doing that on her behalf of being like, this is what your mom trained you for. Because I guess it was meant to be like, it's a last ditch result. The Republic took over everything, brought down the monarchy and everything. So it's like, we need to make sure that, we have something that could take back the kingdom and everything. I guess it was kind of like a last resort, you know, especially at that time, they didn't have much of an army. I mean, eventually, especially like after 8 years ago when they ended up getting wiped out. So it was probably a last ditch effort, you know, so if it really came to that. So they go inside. Obviously, Aleda, being of royal blood, kind of leads the way. And the most depressing thing was the whole Dengar thing where he was like, no, like, I have to go first to test it. He's like, that's what I'm here for. And then the thing proceeds to rip his arms apart. It's like, oh, that's heartbreaking. Which also part of me wonders, do you think that was a little foreshadowed just because of the whole thing with the bunny? Because they were on their way and I was like, oh, like, it's like, oh. And she's like, okay, like, because Isaac was like, okay, like, little dude, don't be making noise because that thing's going to get you. And even, and they being like, he's just honestly, what he's trying to say is, don't make any noise. We don't want you to die, okay? And the bunny nods, and she's like, oh, he kind of understands us. And then he's like, scratching his face, and he's making noise. He gets grabbed, and then he gets squished, and his eyes come out and everything. I was like, oh my god, I didn't expect you to do that. That's like what's that animated series? Happy Tree Friends or something. It's this like really mature, effed up cartoon where like cartoon animals like brutally died. It kind of reminded me of something like that, but part of me was on it. Do you think that was foreshadowing? Probably not. But poor Dengar literally got his arms ripped off. I was like, jeez. I mean, like, it went halfway of what I thought it was. I thought it was going to do the same things to his legs, but it only pulled off his arms. Poor guy. And obviously, you know, because, you know, Hath is like, well, I don't want you to, you know, threaten your life. But she's like, now you're trying to have a backbone about this whole situation. Kind of, where was it beforehand? Like, now you're worried about me and stuff like, it's like, no, I got to do this. And luckily they, you know, reveal the Stendzar, but he never gets a chance to really explain how it works. Obviously, Lazaro and the Republic show up, so it's like, okay. The moment that happens, I was like, oh, it's going to be Isaac. And I was like, oh, please don't. I was like, please. But it turns out, yep, it was in fact Isaac. Because, like, we had gotten a thing back and forth. The fact is, first of all, like, we learned that, you know, he miraculously ended up in another galaxy. Because even the dude was like, honestly, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, we haven't had, like, galactic travel in like 20 years. So the fact is you randomly went from your galaxy, got spit out into ours. He's like, the dude that was like, dude, that's crazy. It's also interesting because like Isaac, like all the time skips, because it's like he survived on all that space food for like 2 weeks, and then like another 2 weeks had passed, and then eventually later on like 6 months had passed. But it is a thing of like, there are some ships that can do galactic travel, but they're very expensive. And now we kind of get an insight into why Isaac is the way he is, like why getting money has always been so important to him and stuff like that, because the money has always been like, oh no, he's not like a greedy douchebag. It's more like, oh, he's greedy for the purpose of, it's the only way to get enough money to get a powerful enough ship to get me back home to my family, you know, because especially 6 months later, because he's like, around this time, my wife, you know, she gave birth to our child. She's like, because at this point, he's like, I don't even know if I have a son or daughter. The fact of the matter is, you know, so missing out on something like that, missing his family in general. I mean, it's also, you know, the real kick in the teeth is when you think about it, it's like, yeah, even after all that, like, he's still, like, we're here, you know, at that point, 4.5 years later, still from that point on, we're there from 4.5 years later, and he was never that much closer to getting to his family. And now that also makes sense more and more, like why he wanted to keep making more money and why he was pissed about Aleda not telling him that she's rich, that she's a royal, because it's like that money I could be using to get back to my family. Like, you don't care about your family. Like, at the very least, we could steal from them, because obviously, once again, he didn't know the truth about her whole the whole situation with the royals, and everything, like her whole family and everything. So he didn't know at the time, but and obviously for Aleda, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow, because it's like, this is happening right off the cuff of like everything with Half and everything too. So it's all a real kick in the teeth and everything. And now we get insight into like what happened. Because I thought it was interesting, because like obviously they do a good job of concealing it. Because at first it's like, well, for one, Lazaro had beat the crap out of him. A part of me was like, oh, that Lazaro beat the crap out of him and then he finally broke after all that, like after the torture. I thought that was it. But it's like, no, the getting the crap beat out of him was meant to be the cover. Because, and once again, in Isaac's defense, it's like, the fact of the matter is, it's like, he thought, it's like, no, she's going to get her mom. The fact is, I'll get this stairs art, because like, the fact is, he even says it, it's like, why are you hunting a lady? She doesn't even want the throne. She's not even a threat to you. But for Lazaro, he wants her dead more so than anything, just because she's a reminder of, that monarchy. Like, he resents them so much. He can't have one royal left, because he doesn't want to take the chance. Because obviously there are loyalists still alive. So it's like, if there are people alive loyal to her, like, this will never completely die, So there's that whole situation to it. But it's like, I'll steal it, because that was his plan in the first place anyway. Like, she gets her mom, I'm gonna steal this thing from Half, and then I'm gonna make a killing. Well, now I'm just gonna give it to you, and you're gonna give me a ship, and I can get back home to my family. And so they put like a lens in his eye that basically lets him kind of see and keep in contact to see what's happening. So and once again, Isaac was like, he thought like she'd get her mom. It's like, you get your mom and I get to go home to my family. Like, he's like, I thought it'd be a win-win situation. Lazaro wasn't supposed to show up, but Lazaro being who he is, I'm sure when it was all said and done, he was going to kill everybody anyway. Like, there was no way he was going to let them all live and just let them go. Like, even when he made that deal with Isaac, he was never going to let, especially Aleda, go. But the whole deal was supposed to get Aleda and May out of that. Like, they weren't, he's like, just let them live, let them go. But Hath wasn't going to give over the other like piece, because like Aleda tried to use the Sterza, but it didn't work, because he never got to fully explain to her how it works. Basically, Hath has like the device necessary to activate it, so Lazaro wants it, but Hath tries to like stab him, and it ensues into a fight, which ends with Carl dying. And it's like, of course, now first Dengar, now Carl is dead. It's like, of course, all the loyalists are going to end up dying. The place is starting to cave in because the Steerzard was taken, so everyone's running for it. Hath ends up getting crushed under some stuff, which is very interesting timing. No, just because I was watching something Naruto related recently, and it was the whole spoilers. It's kind of not really a spoiler, but a big spoiler, I guess. The whole Obito situation, it was just something kind of going back to that. So it's just interesting timing of someone getting squished under a rock. Like, first it was the Obito thing in my head. Now this, it was just interesting. It was like I mean, I'd already known about it, but I was just like, and it's already a known thing in Naruto, but I thought like it was something revisiting that later on in Naruto that I was watching, that like, that's why I kind of said spoilers, even though it's kind of once again, no, this is Vagrant Queen, not Naruto, sorry. It's just, like I said, that was just kind of floating in my head because of that. But nevertheless, having to leave him behind and everything, which that has to make you feel complicated too, because it's like, yeah, he lied to you and everything, but this is still someone that was important to you, who trained you. You were pissed at him, sure, but you didn't want him to die. You might have threatened to kill him, but it was meant to be a threat. You were pissed, you were angry, and they managed to escape. And so does Lazaro, but obviously the Admiral sent people after him, because it's like, well, he's kind of going rogue. And I even love one of the Admirals being like, well, he helps, start the revolt and everything. You think people and stuff like that. So one of the Admirals says like, either bring him back here in cuffs or bring him back dead. So even the Republicans turned against him, but luckily he has the Sterza and he's activating it. I was almost hopeful. I was like, oh, please tell me it doesn't work for you. Please tell me. But it does. So the last person in the world you want wanting to have this has it. I think for him, he's always tired of being second fiddle because, yeah, he helped with the revolt and everything, and he's got his position, but even then, he's not higher up. He still has to take orders from people. Because for him, it's like, because even he tried to use it against, not used it, but in what it represents to Caesar, he's like, oh, like, this is how your family you got the throne. You took it by force. It's like, you don't know the ins and outs of their family. Like, he has such a preconceived notion of like the royal family, and he kind of attributes it to Aleda. For once again, she was a little girl at the time. Like, just because the previous royals were the way they are, you just assume that she's that same way. Because once again, it's like, oh, they put a child on a throne rather, it's a whole complicated, government issue, in itself. But it's just, like I said, the last person you want with that has it. Like, he wants to judge all of them, but it's like, you putting yourself in this position, what makes you any different, because you're literally doing the same thing. You want to blame the royals for being like, oh, these people who got this power, why do they deserve it? It's like, why do you deserve this power above anyone else? But I guess it's like his justification be like, well, I have it so that the royals don't end up having it, or Aleda doesn't end up having it. But now it's like he's going to go back. He's going to have complete control over the Republic because all the admirals are going to have to bow down to him, because it's like, I mean, granted, we don't know the full scope of this thing, but it's powerful enough that the royal, like Aleda's family was able to kind of bring wars to an end and stuff like that, fighting to an end. So it was like, obviously this is like a mass. I mean, we could see it to a certain extent where it's like all the soldiers kind of just like stop when he tells them to stop. So like I said, we don't know if there's like, what I'm trying to say is like, we don't know if there's a limit to how far and how powerful this thing can be. But obviously after all of this, it's also the thing of like, now that it's all said and done, it's like, that line from Isaac in the past being like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. He has to hurt, cheat and screw over people to get where he needs to, because that guy has suggested becoming a scavenger. And it's like, the good, if you're good, you survive and make money. You suck, you die. But it's like, I'm gonna do whatever shady stuff I have to do. And now it's like, now in full circle, it's like that shady stuff involved hurting your friend. It's like, especially after the whole thing of her forgiving you and everything. So Isaac's like, honestly, it'd be better if you just shot me. It'd be better than, her kind of like giving him the silent treatment. And for her, it's like, it's over, for good this time. So it's that complicated thing of like, yeah, it sucks what Isaac did, but at the same time, you can understand. Hell, even Aleda could understand. That could be an angle they go down next episode. So the fact is, like, she would have done anything to get her mom back, but that's no longer reality. But it's still a thing of like, you betrayed me before, I forgave you, because I was like, yeah, it's a complicated situation. We made up, we're good. And now immediately afterwards, I'm like, oh, now I find out that you were using me and stuff like that. So it's, it's so sad too, especially because May had made such a point of like, hey, like, we're good together, we're a team together, we're so good. Even Aleda felt like that, like, oh, we're family, we're good, we're tight. And then it's like, oh, you betrayed me. So it's going to be interesting to see how, things go from here. Because obviously, I think, it's just going to be a complicated trek back to the ship. And it's like, where did it go from here? Because Aleda's like, oh, I'm sure she's lost all the fight she had, because it's like the loyalists are going to be waiting. But it's like, yep, half is dead. Now I know the truth about it. Lazaro has the Caesar, and you lied to me about my mom and everything. So now she's pissed at Isaac, and that's probably going to, like, this trio is going to be heavily impacted by that. Like, because Aleda's not going to want to be around any of them. She's probably just going to go off, try and be off on her own again, just because it's like, once again, and she said, like, my mom had told me not to trust people, and I guess that included Half. And, because that's why even Isaac was leaning into it. Like, yeah, don't trust anybody. She was kind of right, so because even he knew, like, yeah, don't even trust me, so it's a complicated situation. I'm curious to see where all this ultimately ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.